Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I think, yeah, Aisha is here. Okay, Aisha, just do the honors. We were just waiting for you. Take off.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. Hello, everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Aisha Subhani, and I welcome you all to DSA 2022 International Conference, which is held and organized by UCL, University College of London. I would like to introduce my co-panelists, Dr. Ahmad Nawaz and Faria Hashmat from Lahore School of Economics, Lahore, Pakistan, Asad Ghalib and Isa Malki. I wonder if they're here. Asad Ghalib is from Liverpool Hope University and Isa Malki is from University of Westminster. Before I proceed, I would like to inform you that this session is being recorded as per DSA's policy. And photos from mobile phones are not allowed in respect of personal privacy. And besides, all recordings will be available online at DSA platform. And any question or concerns may be conveyed in the chat box. Now, as you're familiar, that this time conference main theme is just sustainable futures in an urbanizing and mobile world, with justice and equity being the central normative lenses. Following the same, our panel is about overcoming gender inequalities and injustices through digital technology and innovations, which is the key player in the present era's fourth industrial revolution, also known as digital revolution. Digital technology, as you know, may play an instrumental role in bridging gender-based disparities and to attain equitable growth in multiple disciplines of economy and society, such as in areas, etc. Our panel thus aims to explore the same, and I'm excited to share that the paper lineup in our panel is diverse, ranging from academia to practice and policy, with some very insightful information and learning across various cultures and economies. We have 3 sessions to our panel. This panel 32A is the first session. Also, I would like to thank all those who have been able to conduct respective studies, compile, and share their findings with us. And I hope that the work done by the authors and the subsequent discussion that we shall begin shortly will allow valuable input for development academics, practitioners, and policymakers. So the layout is such that each presenter is allocated a total of 6 minutes to highlight the main intriguing question and briefly talk about their findings. Afterwards, 10 minutes will be given to our panelists who have already gone through the uploaded presentations for discussion. In the end, considering time availability, the House will be open for further question and answer session. To ensure timely execution, I may intrude and interrupt the speakers. Yes. So let's head towards our discussion session of today. Please note that as per Universal Time Clock, UTC +1, we are starting at 11:50 hours and will end in 40 minutes at 12:30 hours. So you can please refer to your local time accordingly. Our first discussion is on the paper Women, Wellbeing and Role of Digital Technology. It's an evidence from multiple indicators cluster survey. The authors are Hania Shabi, Faria Hashmat, and Ahmad Nawaz. So let's hear more from the authors about highlights of their contribution. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay. So I hope everyone is fine, even after the long COVID spell. We have chosen country Pakistan for this study basically because Pakistan is a country where we see a lot of gender gap. And according to 2021 report, global report, we get to see that Pakistan is ranked as 153rd amongst the 156 countries, which is quite alarming. And after the long COVID spells, it is projected that the pre-existing gender inequalities will get even more intensified. So it's important to see that what is the situation of women and what is the role of ICT in Pakistan to uplift the status of women and to empower them. We have taken here the dependent variables as the subjective well-being and material well-being. Both are very important variables which are pertinent to women's overall empowerment. The subjective well-being is relevant to the personal life, social life, domain satisfaction, emotional responses of women. And obviously the material well-being is linked with their overall standard of living. So both of these dependent variables are very important in the development of women in Pakistan. We get to see here that there are a lot of ICT users in Pakistan. About 82.2% of population is using the mobile phones, which is quite alarming to see that even after the long COVID spells and everything, ICT is still prevailing in Pakistan. So we get to see here that the purpose of this study is to see the possible association of women's well-being with factors such as their personal characteristics, environmental factors, and the attitudes and beliefs. We are going to present two models, basically. One is linked with the empowerment of women, linked with the environmental factors. And this framework is basically adopted by Castellacci 2013. Due to shortage of time, I'm just quickly moving towards my model and my results. So we are basically looking at the impact of area where the woman lives, the household members, the headship of household, her safety variables, and if she's ever victimized or not, and her personal variables, which include her education, her age, her marital status, her wealth score. And we are looking at the impact of these variables on life satisfaction of women. So we get to see here that rural area is positively linked with the life satisfaction of women. It means that the rural women have higher life satisfaction as compared to the urban women. Then as the total household members increase in numbers, the life satisfaction of women increases. Similarly, if the head of the household is female, the life satisfaction is going to be reduced, but this variable is insignificant in the study. Then we here see the safety variables. This is the variable pertinent to mentioning if she's ever been attacked. So if she's never been attacked, her life satisfaction is going to be increased. And if she feels secure in her neighborhood, her life satisfaction is going to increase because the sign is positive. And again, when she feels safe in her own household, her life satisfaction is going to increase. If she's not ever victimized, her life satisfaction is going to be increased. Similarly, education has positive impact. Her increasing age has a negative impact, whereas her currently married status has a positive impact, and her wealth score has also positive impact. When we add the variables of ICT, which are the information, communication, and technology, we get to see that when variable of information is added, it has positive impact on her life satisfaction. When variable of communication, which includes the use of internet and mobiles, when it is added in the equations, we get to see that it has positive impact on her life satisfaction. And when we get to see that the impact of ICT skills, we see that this variable is insignificant. Similarly, we see the same effect of these variables on the wealth score of women, which is the material well-being. When they belong to rural areas, their wealth score is going to be decreased, which clearly shows that the reason why we have poor women living in the rural areas. Then we see that the total household members are going to increase the wealth score of the house, mainly because there are more helping hands which are earning economically. Then we see that if the household is headed by a female, we see that it has positive impact on the wealth score, which means that those households which are headed by a female have higher wealth scores, which is quite alarming and a good sign in Pakistan. Then we see that if she's ever attacked, her wealth score is going to be decreased. If she feels unsafe in her neighborhood, her wealth score is going to be decreased. If she has higher education, her wealth score is going to be increased. With her age, her wealth score is going to be increased. And with her currently merit status, her wealth score is going to be increased. When we add the variables of information into the equation, we see that it is highly significant, which means that the use of internet, the use of television, radio is going to increase the wealth score of women. Similarly, when the variable of communication, which pertains to internet, use of internet and mobile, it surely increases the wealth score of women. Similarly, here the ICT skills variable is also positive, which means that if a woman possesses a set of ICT skills, her wealth score is going to be increased. This is the second and last model. We see here that the impact of some beliefs and attitude on the life satisfaction of women. So if she feels discriminated, if she never feels discriminated, her life satisfaction is going to be increased. This variable pertains to her justification of domestic violence. So if she's never going to justify domestic violence, her life satisfaction is going to be increased. If she feels good about her future life, then her life satisfaction is going to be increased. Similarly, we see here that with the advent of information into her life satisfaction increases. With communication here is insignificant variable, and ICT skills here has negative impact on her life satisfaction. This can be justified as many women in Pakistan face cultural lack. So although they have these technologies, but they do not have permissions to earn or to live the life they want. So they may have negative impact on their life satisfaction. Then we see here the impact of discrimination on her wealth score. So discrimination here, it is slightly significant. We see here the justification of domestic violence, and if she never justifies the domestic violence, her wealth score is going to be increased. If she feels good about and hopeful about her future life, her wealth score is going to be increased. Similarly, with education, with age, her wealth score is going to be increased. And when we here enter the variables of information, we see that it is highly significant. The variable of communication here is also highly significant, and ICT skills variable is also highly significant, which pertains to that when the ICT is added into the model, her wealth score is going to be increased with various of ways, because she's introduced to new markets, she's introduced to new eras of economy, and she can utilize herself to her full potential to empower herself economically. So the suggestions after the study would be that in a country like Pakistan, where we see pre-existing gender compound inequalities, there is dire need to invest in ICT specifically, which can facilitate women in various of ways, like they can connect with other women very freely. It will allow them to make new value chains. It will bring convenience to them, and it will also allow them to interact with institutions, but with on margins. And then they have low cost to risk when they're dealing online or when they're dealing with ICT. It makes them more resilient, and it allows them to innovate more. So in all of these senses, after COVID-19, there's dire need to spend on ICT, specifically which is targeted towards empowerment of women, so that they can really bridge the education gap which they had earlier, and all the institutional and the informal institutional hindrances which they face, they can all be overcome to some extent with the help of ICT. Thank you so much. I welcome all your questions and suggestions.
Thank you so much, Hania, for your time and for talking about such valuable findings. Panelists, let's have you on board to reflect on your thoughts about the work. Well, I actually agree to the point that mobile phones and internet are enablers or are a medium of awareness and communication and skill enhancement. But I think the focus should be on use of technology and skills development and their enhancement for women. Because when we talk about setups like as exist in Pakistan, which is more of a patriarchal setup, such setups inhibit access of mobile phones to women by their male counterparts. So I would like to discuss with you on this, Hania. What is your suggestion in light of your study in this area, that in patriarchal setup, how can women still be ensured or allowed access to, not only access to mobile phones or digital technology, but also good knowledge in terms of their skills enhancement and use of technology for generating income, when there are not even allowed access to such digital appliances and gadgets. Let's be more clear about it, that they are denied access to mobile phones in most of the areas. So then how can we think about ways to improve their knowledge of digital technology and make use of it for their well-being?
That is why.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your feedback. That is why, specifically, that is why we need to research into this area. We see that Pakistan is a patriarchal society, but the anecdotal evidence and the people around come to the conclusion that when there is economic well-being related to women, men do compromise a bit. When they know that income is coming into the household, they will, to a point, certainly allow the use of mobile phones and internet. The question here is that people don't see it as an empowerment tool. People see it as entertainment or something like that. But we here stress on the point that this mobile phone can be used by a woman living in rural area where she has no access to anything in the world. But if she has that mobile phone, and if she's somehow trained, here I'm answering your second question, that how can we give her the knowledge? We need to have our institutions, formal and informal both, like some organizations, women empowerment organizations, or the small business ventures organizations, which are going to help these women set up little platforms there in the rural households, or the online courses, which can allow them to have knowledge about how to use mobile phone to enter the economic world and how to introduce her products and her services to the world. So when she'll have these, and when her men or the men in her household knows that with her little effort, there's going to be increase in the wealth of the household, then they are going to compromise somehow, and they're going to allow her to enter this field and to get benefited by this. So we need to change the narrative, and that can only be changed with the help of the informal organizations and the government help.
Right, thank you. Anyone from the participants to raise any question to, or would like to share any point?
There's one question in the chat box from Madhu, and he actually what he want to inquire is about the data, where that comes from. Does it come from some national survey? Ania, please, could you just clarify it?
Yes, it is from MICS. This data set is conducted by UN organization, and it is on the national level. About 70,000 women, 75,000 women were interviewed from amongst the 50,000, about 50,000 households, from varying from age 18 to about 50. So it was at national level.
And yes, and he has shown concern about, well, that is of course pretty natural with all those surveys. where you just ask, questions related to subjective well-being, particularly in patriarchal settings and in these parts of the regions. There are always biases. There are self-selection biases. There are social desirability biases. So yeah, that thing is always there. You're absolutely right, Madhu. Sometimes, particularly these are the sensitive questions addressed to women because of the, stigma and shame attached to it, because of the peer pressure. So they tend to, give not the right answers, but the ones which are liking to the social pressures and all that stuff. But again, that is something you can't, control for. That bias is always there. Hania, there are a couple of caveats which I just want to mention here, and continuing the same what Madhu has already shown a concern that there are always limitations because your outcome variable is wealth score, which is of course comes from relatively the material aspect of the woman. But the other one, the subjective well-being, that relates to the life satisfaction and the other variable. There are always, limitations. You've got to be skeptical. I mean, caution warrants when, interpreting the results. And the other thing is that both these two outcome variables, they are highly correlated. The world in which we live in, it's a capitalistic world, money matters, so they both are highly correlated, intercorrelated. So we got to be a little bit, conscious while interpreting those results, because they are both highly correlated. And particularly when you regress in the first part, the subjective well-being outcome variable, you have that wealth indicator on the right-hand side. So probably in the future, you can rerun the regressions without taking that variable on the right-hand side. Another thing which is quite interesting, all those demographics related to, women household characteristics and the veracity and the attitudes and beliefs, they are in line with the theory, what the theory says. But one thing which really raises eyebrows is, there is I think one negative impact on the subjective well-being variable of the internet use. So that warrants further explanation, or you just need to probe that a little bit, because when with wealth scores, okay, that's fine. It leads towards the more skills and ICT, particularly the computer. I think it's the variable which relates to the skill levels and awareness towards the computers. So that leads towards the wealth score. But when you regress that with the subjective well-being as the dependent variable, that was quite significantly negative. So that probably needs further investigation. What my take on this is that it really depends on, I mean, the whole this ICT, particularly in the midst of the COVID and the aftermath of COVID as well. There's so much online, things. Even the social small scale, startups have built up online, and women, they are taking advantage out of it. So from wealth score, that's fine. That comes out as significant. But why then their subjective well-being has been decreased? Because they are the ones, the women who are more likely to benefit out of it is basically those who are, using that online platforms to, sell or purchase some sort of things or some, so that is quite, that needs to be explained further.
Well,
Thank you so much.
To take it forward, may I just add that we need to kind of look at it through the lens that how digital technology, or as she measured it in terms of access to mobile phones and its use, how is that, related to, or how is that associated with the well-being of women? So what, in my opinion, is that I think because a mobile phone is considered a source of empowerment, and whenever a woman has access to mobile phone, she feels empowered, and hence the significant effect on well-being. I think we should look at it from that aspect also. And another thing that I think is missing in your study, and which could make it more substantial, is the fact that, that women, because they can benefit more from technology, because technology is more intelligence intensive. And this was a study which was done in 1997 by Haraway, that technology may benefit women more due to use of intelligence. So I think that that point further kind of justifies your findings, and that point further, kind of add to the to your concluding remarks. Yeah.
Aisha, I guess we have a second presentation as well in this session.
Ms. Annalise has not been able to join us today. So soon after this session, we have this second session. So we would like to conclude the first session here with this presentation. And to all the participants, please make a note that we all need to sign out from this virtual room and sign in again through the other link, which is the virtual room for panel 32B. So all those presenters whose presentation are due for the next panel and the subsequent one session, they should sign out from here once the session is over and sign in from their respective sessions. Any other comment, please? Panelists and participants, would you like to ask anything?
I would like to clarify here that the communication variable is not negatively associated here with the life satisfaction of women, but the variable of ICT skills, which means that if she's educated, if she possesses some kind of ICT skills knowledge, like the knowledge of softwares or the programming or anything like that, if she has that, it has negative impact on life satisfaction. That may be due to the patriarchal setup here in Pakistan, because women here, even if they are highly educated, are sometimes constrained by the informal and formal institutions here in Pakistan, like their men in family, or they do not find good jobs, or they do not find appropriate places where they can utilize their full potential. So that can be obviously minimized, as you suggested, Aisha, by further researches into this area, that how can this be corrected in Pakistan. And that is why I suggest, and I also say that future line of inquiry should be at the micro level to see that how these women can be empowered. Like, this was the bird's eye view, just to know that if ICT is playing some kind of role in their lives. So for further discussion, we need to get a lot of research on the micro level. That is what future line of inquiry should be.
Yes. And in my opinion, it's the use of technology that could have significant effect on well-being, the precise use of technology. There could be one arena, for example, in income generation or in health services, etc. So I think further study into this area would be quite beneficial for a lot of development experts, academics, and policymakers. But for now, thank you very much, Hania, and thanks to our panelists and our participants. Before we end, I would allow this opportunity for the participants to raise any question, or if they would like to discuss anything regarding technology and its effect on well-being. You're welcome.
Yes, actually, I would like to add further this, particularly these the information communication technologies. I think the mobile technologies exactly is the one which is very handy, and it is widely used as well. In terms of coverage, if you see in terms of affordability. Most of the population, male and female, they have an access to mobile phone, and it's already widely used in all sorts of interventions as well. In microfinance institutions, they are using that mobile phone for by a little bit, the orientation given to their beneficiaries about how to, basically the use of financial literacy and all that stuff. So this is exactly where we can, particularly in these parts of the world, we can make a real impact because of the. I was just, getting some sort of statistics somewhere that it's more than 80%, almost around 80% of the male and female, they have an access to mobile technology. So, and of course, smartphones, because of the affordability as well, because it's getting quite cheaper as well. So this is the area where we can make an impact through through reducing those information asymmetries. And already that is already being widely used as well. So many information related to the societal the information disseminating from the government, from the state as well, comes from mobile messages, text messages, and all that stuff. So this is and in that particular research, that I think in all those three ICT variables, the one that the mobile technology variable, the communication, that comes out as the most significant variable as well. So this is exactly the way forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you for your valuable input. All the participants, thanks once again. We're now signing out from here. And we now head towards our second session for panel 32B. So I request all the presenters, authors, and panelists to join that virtual room. See you there. Bye-bye.